The film features Jason Statham, who sets out to track down a deadly assassin responsible for his best friend's death. Believe me, you'll want to see this through to the conclusion. In San Francisco, FBI agents John Crawford and Tom Lone find themselves at a dock warehouse where it appears the Chinese triads are engaged in a shootout with another group. The two agents casually relax as gunfire erupts around them. Crawford is frustrated by how 2 years of work have been wasted in mere moments. They both draw their weapons and dive into the chaos. They discover several lifeless bodies scattered on the ground as they move toward the sound of gunfire. Crawford notices a bullet lying on the ground and feels a rush of fear, but before he can react, Tom is already involved in a gunfight, which Crawford quickly joins. Crawford then witnesses a man murdering another but loses sight of him before he can take action. Tom eliminates another assassin while Crawford navigates the dock until he gets shot in the shoulder. His life flashes before him as the shooter prepares to pull the trigger, only to be shot in the face and fall into the water. Crawford hastily informs Tom that the Yakuza hired an independent contractor to eliminate the triads. Ironically, the CIA utilized the same assassin known as Rogue, who betrayed his own team, resulting in the deaths of 5 agents. Crawford presents Tom with Rogue's distinctive titanium shells embedded with uranium slugs. Finally, the police arrive at the scene and the duo displays their FBI badges to them. Days later, Tom's wife hands him the phone. Crawford is simply telling his friend he may be late for the game at his house. We then meet Crawford's wife, Jenny. As they end the call, a car pulls up outside Tom's residence and a man steps out brandishing a pistol. He swiftly enters the house, subdues Tom's wife, and shoots Tom in the face before tossing him into a room with his wife and daughter. He fires 2 bullets into Tom's family and ignites the house. Crawford is awakened by his wife, who notices a significant police presence at Tom's place. He quickly exits the car and shows his FBI badge. He learns of 3 fatalities and is nearly sickened as he spots one of the bodies. His wife weeps uncontrollably as Crawford searches the house for clues. He identifies the same shell casing he saw earlier at the dock and leaves, clutching it tightly. 3 years later, a Spiker C8 pulls up to a club, perfect for any car enthusiast watching. Rogue leaps out and gains VIP entry. He strides directly to the guards and slices them both open. He heads toward the Yakuza members, opening fire on some of them. The remaining Yakuza pull out their guns and fire until their weapons are empty. A man checks to see if Rogue is dead, but instead the man's dog returns carrying an explosive. Boom! A surviving member spots Rogue and declares, "Treachery will not be tolerated," and instantly meets his end. In minutes, the area is turned over to the police. Crawford arrives assisted by another agent named Wick, and no, it's not John Wick. If it were, the film would conclude in an instant. Anyway, one man appears to have survived the explosion, prompting Crawford to rush over to assist him. He performs emergency medical care, and the man screams for his life upon realizing Crawford graduated from an online program. He quickly reveals to Crawford that Rogue was the one who detonated the place. This revelation triggers a disturbing dream for Crawford that night about losing his friend to this merciless assassin. He awakens to his phone ringing. When he answers, Jenny is on the line, asking him to attend their son's basketball game. When he mentions finding Tom's killer, she tells him that his fixation has ruined their marriage and hangs up. Crawford makes his way to FBI headquarters where a man named __ enters, a sniper in the mix. The team, including an agent named Maria, reviews the case. They conclude that Rogue appears to have double-crossed the Yakuza and their leader, Shiro. The opposing criminal group, the Triads, is led by Chong, a ruthless figure with Rogue caught between both factions. The assassin retrieves a few handguns and departs, making his way to Chang's mansion in California. Chong introduces Rogue to his wife and praises him for his recent hits on the Yakuza. Chong talks to him about loyalty, and Rogue ensures Chong understands he bows to no one. With that, Rogue departs to finish the mission, and Chong orders 2 men to follow him. At Shiru's estate in Japan, Shiru engages in a duel with one of his men, their katanas clashing together repeatedly. A young boy manages to score a hit on Shiru. He immediately pleads for forgiveness, and Shiru reassures him not to worry. He then delivers a punishing blow to the boy and walks off with his daughter Kira. He notes that some horses are on their way to San Francisco, a detail Chan also conveyed to Rogue. He instructs her to go to San Francisco since he doesn't trust his own men. She then sets off to secure the horses. Meanwhile, Crawford visits an underground fighting club and meets a man named Benny. They go to a room where Benny claims to have information on Rogue. It turns out he is a bullet maker responsible for killing 2 others who specialized in facial reconstruction. Both of those men died under mysterious circumstances, while the 3rd surgeon seems to be missing. The scene shifts to the Triads settling debts with their contacts. Now comes the exciting part. The so-called horses are intact and loaded onto trucks. There seems to be more to these vehicles than meets the eye as the crew departs. In mere seconds, police officers swarm the trucks and instruct the men to remain calm. The cops emerge from their vehicles and press the Yakuza against a fence for a search. The corrupt police captain who was bribed appears and tells a Yakuza member he wants the money immediately. He takes the package and informs the man that everything is ready, then boom. The Triads leap into the trucks and hijack them while Rogue observes from a distance. Moments later the vehicles are checked for hidden cargo, and yes, the horses were genuine, only they were solid gold. Rogue receives a cash payout, and later the legitimate police along with Crawford arrive at the dock to survey the bodies of the slain Yakuza. Crawford informs his team that this was a substantial heist, noting that there's only one thing that could force the Yakuza to exit their cars unarmed: the police, or at the very least, impersonators. The next day, the FBI team visits a restaurant where Crawford confronts the corrupt captain and roughs him up. He gives the man a beating in the bathroom and informs Crawford that an unknown man threatened his family, particularly his children, leaving him no choice but to comply. As they escort the captain outside, he is struck in the chest by a bullet. Rogue discards the weapon and flees. Crawford finally sees revenge simmering in his eyes as he pursues Rogue as if his life depends on it. They engage in parkour, and Crawford successfully forces Rogue through a window. But within moments, the man vanishes. At the Yakuza headquarters in San Francisco, Kira enters the office of the two top bosses and makes them both look foolish, clearly asserting her dominance. The following day, Crawford receives a surprise call from Rogue, using a disguised voice for an unknown purpose. He provides Crawford with the location of the stolen shipment before hanging up at Chang's warehouse. The FBI and police rush to the scene, showing Chong a warrant to search the premises, and Chong instructs his man to open the door. Inside, a lone man stands, ordered to surrender. It turns out to be Rogue, using the alias Victor Shaw. Crawford circles around him, acknowledging that the surgeon has done excellent work but claims he remembers those eyes. He interrogates the deadly assassin, who stays silent even when Crawford mentions how he murdered his friend's family. The man remains quiet. Wick returns to Crawford, informing him that the warehouse is clear, and as a result, they lack the grounds to arrest Rogue and are forced to depart after capturing a photo. Back at Chang's mansion, he praises Rogue for concealing the vehicles before the police arrived, unaware that he was the one who alerted them. Meanwhile, Crawford, visibly furious, acts out in frustration and rage, still seething over the loss of his friend and family. A few days later, as Rogue toys with his firearm, Shang's daughter engages with him. Her mother observes and cautions Rogue against mixing business with family. That night, in the Triad district, the Yakuza biker arrives at the Triads and creates a disturbance, prompting the group to follow him. The enigmatic driver then leads his pursuers into the Yakuza territory, where they discover the Triads on their turf. Immediately, the two criminal organizations start slaughtering each other. Rogue reveals his identity from a distance, watching the expressions on the Triads' faces as they are beaten and pummeled. He joins the fray and finally corners the last Triad. It appears Rogue didn't heed his parents' warning about playing with food, yet he ultimately ends the boy's life. The following day, the FBI witnesses the street massacre. Only one word can encapsulate what is about to unfold, and that is war. Meanwhile, Chong advises his men to refrain from retaliation, as they risk everything if they engage in combat. He then instructs Rogue to ensure his wife and daughter stay safe throughout this conflict. Rogue approaches the second-in-command, whose brother he previously killed, and hands him a matchbox containing the address of a Yakuza safe house. At the safe house, the FBI monitors the situation as the Yakuza holds a meeting. They laugh and socialize until the FBI spots the Triads eliminating a Yakuza member. They notify Crawford, and the Triads, disregarding Chang's orders, invade the tea house and commence slaughtering everyone present. They shoot through the paper walls and take out the majority of the Yakuza. As more members join the fight, they engage in a shootout with the FBI. The Yakuza retaliate against the Triads, and both groups fire incessantly until the Yakuza inside are all dead. Crawford crashes the party, and alongside Wick, they breach the tea house. Within moments, the Triads are held at gunpoint by the FBI and are all taken into custody. Then suddenly, boom! Rogue systematically eliminates the Triads one by one. This diversion gives the Triads a chance to move and attempt to escape. Maria runs for her life, Wick gets shot, and Crawford is taken down, being the last FBI agent left in the tea house. They all rush him, attempting to subdue him, but his agility and skills prove exceptional. He dispatches man after man until he spots the last injured Yakuza member in a room. Crawford takes him out and rushes outside, catching sight of Rogue in his vehicle. Naturally, he gives chase and they tear through street after street. Rogue appears to be enjoying himself, but Crawford is determined not to let his friend's killer slip away. Unfortunately, he becomes involved in a significant accident, totaling his car and allowing Rogue to escape at high speed. The next day, Rogue contacts Chong to inform him that his men have betrayed his orders and have been killed. Rogue claims he attempted to intervene, but was powerless to stop them. It turns out, Rogue has returned to the Yakuza and has been instructed to eliminate Chong, along with his wife and child, despite his reservations. Meanwhile, Jenny tells Crawford why there are so many armed men surrounding her home. She scolds him again, insisting that his obsession will lead to everyone's demise. Benny reaches out to Crawford, notifying him that they have located the third plastic surgeon in Mexico. Within hours, they track him down and corner him, holding him at gunpoint and compelling him to divulge information. He states that the man's face was nearly destroyed, and he repaired the muscle, nerve tissue, and facial bones. He confirms that this is Rogue's current appearance. At Chang's mansion, he prepares his family for departure. Little does he realize that a ninja-like assassin has infiltrated his property. Chong begins to sift through his drawers when his right-hand man enters, aiming a gun at him and accusing him of treachery. The two engage in a shootout as Rogue steps in and subdues the assassin. Chong states that his man had claimed he was a loyal friend. Rogue responds by agreeing and shoots Chong. Simultaneously, the Yakuza men outside overpower and eliminate all the guards, and an FBI agent reports this development to Crawford.
Rogue approaches Chang's wife and daughter, and gunfire erupts outside. The Yakuza demand to see the bodies, and Rogue decides to eliminate the man who made that statement, but he effortlessly takes out all of them. It seems Rogue has spared the wife and daughter, escorting them to a car and allowing them to flee, honoring his promise from earlier. Crawford is informed that Rogue is orchestrating a conflict between the Yakuza and Triads. Things are about to get thrilling. Shiru arrives in town, telling his daughter he wants her back in Japan. Just then, Crawford approaches Shiru and welcomes him to America. He shows him images of Rogue slaughtering his own Yakuza comrades and questions if he was involved. Shiru feigns ignorance, and Crawford lets him be. The following day, Rogue visits Shiru, holding the suitcases containing the horses. He greets Shiru, and it becomes clear that this is their first encounter. Shiru is presented with the golden horses, while Rogue is handed a suitcase. Upon opening it, he discovers cash and a folder detailing his betrayal. Shiru instructs his men to interrogate Rogue to uncover the whereabouts of his wife and child. He then strikes the horses to reveal they are imposters. Meanwhile, Rogue takes out one of the men escorting him. The other proves to be a formidable opponent, but is ultimately killed alongside his companion. Shiru descends the stairs just as a bomb detonates, incapacitating him. Rogue then expertly uses 4 bullets to eliminate 4 adversaries. Shiru grabs a katana, while Rogue lowers his firearm. He picks up his own katana, and Shiru inquires why Rogue has betrayed him after all this time. Rogue explains it was due to a very specific hit ordered 3 years prior. The two then engage in a duel. Rogue swiftly overpowers Shiru, holding him at knife point. He warns him that he should have left the wife and daughter alone. Shiru manages to rise, and they continue their battle, both sustaining injuries to their arms. Rogue concludes the tale by revealing that Tom had managed to escape Rogue's grasp, and during their confrontation, Rogue was killed. Tom then shot Rogue in the face to conceal his death, and after all these years, it is revealed that Tom altered his appearance and voice to become Rogue. This was solely to find and eliminate Shiru, but Shiru discloses that the individual who provided information on Tom and his family's location within the Triads at the beginning, and everything leading to this moment, was Crawford. Tom subsequently kills Shiru, his eyes filled with vengeance as he recalls his deceased wife and daughter.
The following day, Chang's wife receives a package. Inside is a note instructing her to start a new life, with the golden horse included as a gift. Kira also receives a package. Within it is the same note, but when she discovers her father inside, she is struck with shock. Tom contacts Crawford saying, "Do you recall the first night we met? That's where he wants Crawford to meet him." Crawford promptly calls his sniper to accompany him. He walks through the dock, calling for Rogue to reveal himself, but instead he is swiftly disarmed, leading to a fierce fight. They move with incredible speed, and Crawford refuses to give in easily. They exchange blows with shovels, transitioning into grappling. Crawford places Tom in a chokehold, and Tom asks, "Why did you do it? What did Shiru promise for your wife and daughter's lives?" It suddenly dawns on Crawford, Rogue is indeed Tom. Crawford gazes deeply into his eyes and knows the truth. They tumble out of a window, and the sniper is not positioned to take a shot. Tom admits he never anticipated the path to his family's killer would circle back to his best friend. Crawford asks if he can be forgiven, and Tom replies that Tom is no more. As the sniper prepares to shoot him, Crawford leaps in front and is fatally shot while protecting his old friend. Sometime later, Rogue climbs into his car with the golden horse and speeds onto the highway, marking the film's conclusion. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more movie recaps.